Hello and welcome to our first YouTube channel dedicated to AI sovereignty news. We're going to start off with a quote from Mark Carney, Prime Minister of Canada at the Davos 2026 conference in January. And he states, "We are in the midst of a rupture, not a transition." And what this refers to is the geopolitical situation of the world today and how it applies also to AI. Now, the stories we're going to cover for this one is based on our very first newsletter on sovereign AI, and it's called the Sovereign AI Industry Advisor, dedicated for the month of February 2026. My name is Bill Wong. I'm a full-time analyst, and my entire career has been an analyst in AI, and it's my pleasure to cover these stories for you. I mentioned before, Davos 2026, at that conference, Mark Carney eloquently described what's happening in the world today, that there is a new world order out there, and that if you want an option besides the hegemony and the hyperscalers, the third option is really to define an AI strategy yourself by working with like-minded democracies. Now, in Latin America and the Caribbean region, they also had a conference at the end of January. And I was asked to be a speaker there to talk about AI. And I asked the people there, did they hear about Mark Carney's speech? And everybody in the audience said yes, and it resonated. And what this region wants to do as well is to work together, and they don't have a history of working together sometimes, but they all recognize the need to work together, especially in the areas of AI. And I'll cover this in more detail in a future YouTube video. And as part of Canada's strategy and Germany's strategy, they are seeking and forming alliances. And it's interesting to note, Germany is probably a logical choice for Canada because they're our biggest trading partner in Europe. And basically, they're going to share technology and share ideas on how to monetize this technology for its people. Now, this story, and I'll provide a link to all these stories as well in the newsletter, focuses on a model, a framework for building an AI strategy. It's an article that I wrote for Forbes that was just published a couple of weeks ago. Glad to share that. And this is a country well known in the Gulf, lots of money. And what makes them unique with their sovereign AI strategy is they're actually investing in building an alternative to the GPU. So rather than build and lots of chips, they take the entire wafer. And the advantage of doing that is the network, the interconnection, connectivity is so much faster here. So they've made some headway. OpenAI is investing billions. So this is an interesting one to watch that we're going to cover more detail in the future. And at Davos 2026, they held the World Economic Forum, and HP CEO Antonio Neri was also there. And while some may argue this is self-serving because HP is an on-prem vendor, what we are seeing is that nations do want to build their own systems that they can manage and control. And he argues that if you are going to build digital sovereignty, that you really need a distributed system, not only for performance, but for better control. Now, I had the privilege of being at the AWS announcement at reInvent in December, when Matt Garman previewed what the EU sovereign cloud was. That just recently became official. And they have a unique way of attempting to preserve a nation's control of the data. And if you're familiar with the US Cloud Act, that gives the US administration the power to make US headquartered organizations to provide data regardless of where it's located, regardless of which country that data may be located in. And so their solution is to try to create a separate entity that doesn't really report directly to the parent. It's an interesting, it looks like an eloquent solution. Critics point out that they question how this will hold in court when it does eventually report back to them, at least the revenue does. But it is managed entirely by the Europeans here. And the last story we want to cover is to watch for is the new AI platform, Rubin. And unlike its predecessors, Blackwell being the most current one or most recent one, this one attempts to optimize both the GPU and CPU. And the claims are you're going to get 10 times better performance when it comes to inference. So some big claims here, and we'll all be watching for this. And here are some resources you can go to. I serve as the Chief AI Officer at Scifex and the editor for these articles, the YouTube videos. I serve as an AI Research Fellow at Infotech, and happy to speak if you would like me to speak to your organization. Thanks, and we'll talk to you again soon.